Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Kassam. Welcome to the start of Norwich City's Championship.
Come on, PC. There's PC.
Absolute legend.
Our
photographer.
There's no woodpeckers up here.
There we go. That's true. Yeah, that is true. Good to see.
Photographer extraordinaire. That
absolutely. All the best pictures you see on our channels is there. We will deliver you the team news very, very shortly because there's some interesting stuff that we need to get through. But we can see the away end just opposite us here is filling up. We've seen the Norwich City players out and about with 3 minutes from that official team news. Paddy, it's a cloudy morning.
Cloudy's a good word.
Cloudy's a good word.
Cloudy's a good word for what we're about to reveal.
Yeah, dear me. We'll get onto that in just a moment. We will wait before we talk about that. But we've seen Norwich City's team here. We've seen Adam Eder.
Let me punch up, Connor.
Sorry, I've put my bag in. We should have sorted this beforehand. This is how professional we are.
Amateur hour.
Let's start. It's always good to be here, isn't it? Championship opening campaign, back again.
What a friendly bunch they are here as well.
They're a really lovely bunch. Yeah, this is my first time at this ground. I have to say, it's even though people will talk about the car park, really nice setup, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Norwich City get on here this afternoon. And it's a big afternoon, I think it's fair to say. It's the start of a new era. It's one that I think people are excited for, one that we've obviously seen throughout pre-season. There's been good bits, there's been bad bits, but of course all of that is largely rendered irrelevant as we are here today. We've got a minute to go until that team news. And I think it's going to be very interesting, and you're going to be very interested when it drops in perhaps one person in particular. So we'll come to that in just a moment. Paddy, just very quickly before that team news does drop, and we can maybe speak about things a little bit more.
Yeah,
this is going to be tough for Norwich today, isn't it? I mean, Oxford have come up from League One. They've made a lot of additions this summer. It's going to be really interesting to see how Norwich's new chapter begins here this afternoon.
It is now in light of news where it's going to drop confirmation-wise shortly. I mean, there were so many imponderables from pre-season. You just didn't know what you're going to get here. And Johannes, again, on Thursday, we spoke to him. Patience. It will take time. It won't all look the finished article today. Certainly won't now in light of certain team news. But you just don't know. And I think we encapsulated that on our predictions.
Here we go. So Norwich City have lined up like this. Gunning goal, Stacey, Hanley, Duffy and Doyle, the back four. McLean, Nunez and Gibbs, the midfield three. Fashnacht, Sainz and Sargent are the three up front. The bench, Long, Fisher, Hills, Sorensen, Forsyth. Forson does make the bench for Norwich City. Elliot Miles, Abu Kamara and Adam Eder. No Johnny Rowe. And we understand he has, as of this morning, pulled himself out of availability to play for Norwich City this afternoon. He was due to be in the starting 11, Paddy, and he has decided to withdraw from the starting 11.
Which is a terrible shame on many levels. And the first thing I would say is there's one bidder, that is Marseille. And Marseille are nowhere near the figures. So this isn't a Gabi Zara Galatasaray situation where last weekend you don't risk him because he could get an injury, could jeopardise a deal. There isn't a deal, not from the Norwich perspective. So it's doubly baffling, really. You can only think he's been very badly advised. The fact that it started happening last night, Romano,
you can see
ask the question where he's getting it from. So, and now today was in the 11, no longer in the 11, requested not to play. And I believe Johannes, as it's been told to me, because it's a Sky game, he might obviously he will be interviewed pre-match. So that's a nod to Sky that he might elaborate further. He certainly will after the game when we speak to him on this topic. But as a result, Johnny Rowe isn't here today. Christian Fashnacht starts. Elliot Miles is on the bench, isn't he, I think?
Yeah.
And the sort of disruption you don't want. And you certainly don't want it for a new head coach on the opening day of a new season. And the fallout will row on from here, no pun intended. But where we sit right now is Johnny Rowe is put himself firmly on the outside of this camp. And he will have to deal with the consequences. And obviously there'll have to be a lot of transfer into play between now and then. It's a long way back from here when you've actually requested not to play. No injury that we're led to believe.
He travelled.
There's nothing of that nature. From he was in the 11. He's no longer in the 11, and that's a decision he's made. So incredibly disappointing. And as I say, it flies in the face of the sort of the profile he's built and how he was perceived by fans.
Can I just make a marked point today? Adam Eder, everything that's happened around him in pre-season, all of the, and he's got criticism and he's deserved some of that criticism. Yeah. Still, that run was on with Celtic. Still, the clubs are talking. He is here today. He's on the bench, and Jonathan Rowe is not. He's decided to pull himself out of the team, which is not just to do it. To do it is one thing. To do it and the timing that he's done it on the morning of the game, it's completely unacceptable.
It is, and it's baffling. As I say, it's baffling to me that the element of this that doesn't make a lot of sense is that Marseille aren't close to the valuation Norwich have. If they're close, then you understand it, but that isn't the case. There's no other bidder, despite there was clearly a conversation with Leeds, but there is no other bidder. So what are they trying to achieve from Rowe and his side, his representatives? It just seems absolutely incredible, really. That given that there isn't a path to him leaving this club, that he's taken this decision. And
he's trying to force a move, isn't he? That's essentially where we are at this moment in time. But
to draw the parallel you make with Adam Eder, we've had. And, Adam Eder had his situation in Austria, but that was moved past and all parties have come back together. And as we understand it, Celtic are pretty close now to the valuation Norwich rate Adam Eder at. So that will probably get done in the days ahead. But that's remarkably different from a John Rowe situation where there isn't a club who've got anywhere near the figures Norwich want. And yet he's decided he's not in the right frame of mind and he's not going to play today. So, that's the scenario where we're at, and there'll be a lot more that we'll hear from the relevant actors, I'm sure, in the hours ahead. But in the here and now, John Rowe is not available, and Norwich's chances of getting a result here are not improved. Let's be honest, purely on the footballing sense. He showed in pre-season what he's all about. He looked the one who was likely to score them a goal. So you take him out of the mix, it certainly weakens their ability to get a result here for me today.
Yeah, and Christian Fashnak comes in to replace him. So I will. I'll just read you that team again. Gunn in goal: Stacey, Hanley, Duffy, and Doyle. Norwich City's back four: McLean, Nunez, and Liam Gibbs. The midfield three: Fashnak and Sainz on either flank, with Josh Sargent up front. The bench: Long, Fisher, Hills, Sorensen, Gabe Forsyth on the bench. 17-year-old Gabriel Forsyth, who's rewarded for what was a very productive pre-season, and of course. Forson, who I think we've been told just to call him Forson, makes the bench. Miles, Kamara, and Adam Eder, who is here amidst transfer speculation today. So I think there probably is some credit due for Adam Eder and the way that he has conducted himself in light of this. But you're right, Paddy. In terms of Fashnak coming in to replace him, that is, and he's not someone who played a whole host of football in pre-season. That will be really disappointing, won't it, to Yannis Hofterup, who has only Thursday he was praising John Rowe and how professional he'd been in the light of speculation.
Maybe he was up till Thursday, but certainly since then, definitely not the case. And I'm just trying to push through some of the comments, and you can imagine some of the fan base, probably a lot of the fan base. Is this strong? Probably not, in light of as it's been told to us that he has requested not to play. It isn't. He's got a little knock. They've decided to leave him out. It is,
or that even a move is
close.
It is
a move is close, and a club have put the money down, and we're at the horse trading stage. It's none of those scenarios. The club are very happy to message out that he was in the 11. He's travelled. He's requested today not to play. So it's sad. It's a sad way that this might be going now, but maybe that's modern football. But even in modern football, this scenario is very rare. Yeah. That you almost get a player down in tools. Certainly on the morning of a new season. The timing is.
It's calculated, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very calculated in terms of timing. I think we all know how these situations unfold, and it's very disappointing. I think for a player who Norwich have nurtured for a long time, they've looked after him through some difficult spells in his life. Really, I think it's a fair point to say as well. They've given him a platform to go and maybe attract some of the interest that he is attracting. And I can completely understand why, for a young man who maybe hasn't been in this situation before, it would be disorientating. But equally, there is a professionalism, there is a way to uphold yourself and standards as well, and to pull yourself from a starting 11 on the morning of a game, to disrupt your team's preparations. It's not a great look for John Rowe, and I think most and you certainly thank you very much. You certainly sense the mood of the fan base coming on through here is very disappointing. And I think that's probably how Norwich City will feel as well. We've got the Oxford team in front of you. So
sorry, Connor, just cut across.
Go ahead, yeah.
Matthew's question there, we can clear that up. He's got a slight knock, so
no Jose Cordova.
And no Cordova either, no. Who I think the sense from Johannes on Thursday was they weren't going to risk him today, but hopefully over this next week, midweek, Stevenage then away. Is it Blackburn at home next time?
Yes, yeah. Top of the league, Blackburn.
We might get to see him, yeah.
I'll just read you that Oxford team. The headline from a Norwich City perspective is that Przemysław Boheta starts against his former club. They've got Jamie Cumming in goal, Sam Long, Kieran Brown, Will Volks, Elliot Moore, captains the side, Przemysław Boheta, Cameron Brannigan, very good player, who signed a new contract at the club this summer, Mark Harris, Joe Bennett, Tyler Goodrum, and Ruben Rodriguez. The bench, Matt Ingram, Josh McEachran, Malcolm Iwobi, Louis Sibley, Idris El Mizuni, ex-Ipswich Town player, Greg Lee, Peter Chiozo, Jordan Thornley, and Gaitlin O'Donker make up their bench. Of course, this is their first game in championship level for this century, isn't it? The first time, I think this is Norwich's senior team. I know you've been here for an EFL trophy game, but it's Norwich's senior team's first ever game here, and may well be the last. I think in 2 years' time they're moving. So, let's delve into this Norwich team then, Paddy, because we haven't done that. What do you make of that back four? There's been lots of conversation and discussion around the centre back partnership. We saw Hanley and Sorensen last weekend. He has gone with the experienced pairing of Duffy and Hanley. Hills is on the bench. No Jaden Warner in the squad, which is interesting in terms of a hierarchical perspective. But given the injury to Cordova and probably the performance of Hanley and Sorensen last week, is that fair in terms of how you see it? Did he have options to go in a different direction for you?
Yeah, but I mean, again, we touched base with him on Hills. And it feels that's tipping towards a loan move, while reiterating again he's very much a key part of the future. So if you don't think he's quite ready in the here and now, I think you do, and there's no Cordova, then you have to sort of lean towards Hanley and Duffy. I thought it was interesting. You obviously hosted Ben Napper at that Canaries Trust midweek, and Ben was, I can't quite remember what the question was, but he was very keen to push the experienced element and how good those senior pros are. Maybe in contrast to one or two of the younger pros that we won't name him, as we've named him quite often on this broadcast. But, in terms of good behaviours, setting the right habits, people might shoot back at. There's a certain centre-back playing today who maybe leaves his life with a little bit to be desired off the pitch. But maybe in terms of a football player and a professional, his standards are such that, and of course, what they both possess is experience, and maybe, particularly with what's unfolded on the morning of this game, a little bit of experience in that group today is the worst attribute to be able to try and harness, because I think it's quite clear it's going to be a challenging afternoon, I think, against a team and a club, as you rightly said there, Connor. I mean, they are up and they're bouncing and they're full of momentum and optimism and excitement, and Norwich are going to have to counteract all of that. And so, if they have to withstand spells, then you'd like to think a Hanley and Duffy pairing would be better suited than maybe one or two of the younger players. So I can see that today. I don't think that's representative of we'll get 35 games in and it'll be Hanley and Duffy. I don't think that's the case. But today, in this scenario, it's probably not the worst, particularly, of course, with Callum Dore, who's barely in the building, playing him at left side. Just to have that familiarity in the middle of the defence. With Duffy, with Stacey on the right, Gunny behind them. I think you're trying, if you're Hannes Torop, just to try and put a little bit of structure in place that's very familiar, and that's players who play together and know what they're all about. So, but it's a shame as well. Cordova, he's just had this muscular issue that they don't really want to risk him at this stage. It's a very long season, isn't it, as we know? So you can probably see what they've heard on the side of caution with him as well. Yeah,
indeed. No Onel Hernandez in the matchday squad either, which I think you've got an ever-growing list of names to write down here to us. Johannes Hoftor up, but no Onel Hernandez here. We know obviously he's had some fitness issues in pre-season, returning from a foot injury. So whether that is connected to that or not, we shall see. Paul has asked about Presene, just to repeat again. He is missing today with a slight knock. Shane Jones, you've got a lot catching up to do, my friend. John Rowe not in the squad today. He's requested not to play. And just a final one on that, Paddy. Is there a route back for him, do you think? Which is the question. Someone highlighted, and I think it's a good point on Willie Nonto, who did a similar thing at Leeds last year amid interest. He did come back in the team, and there are Norwich examples from the past. I remember being at Bournemouth the day that Emmy Buendia and Todd Cantwell both didn't play, although I think that was more Daniel Farker taking them out rather than them refusing to play. So maybe a slightly different situation. But sort of history suggests there is a road back if it is handled in the right way from the player, but extremely difficult.
I think refusing to play, that's a whole different level, isn't it? Your head might not be right, and we only have to go back to Adamina this summer, and maybe there's been points where he hasn't acted in the most professional way. But to do it on the morning of the game, following on from what
having travelled with the squad,
but what unfolded yesterday, the Sun report in the afternoon, and then then this Fabrizio Romano feed. I mean, I was led to believe Thursday that there was a bid in from an overseas club. So this didn't escalate on Friday. This has been in the pipeline back end of the week, and presumably him and his representatives have got together in the intervening hours and decided that this is the best move in a high-profile game, opening day of the season. You're in the team, you've travelled. You're gonna say to presumably Johannes, "Sorry, I don't want to play today." It's staggering, really. It's staggering. I don't think there is a way back, frankly. No, I can't see it.
No, I agree. And I think what is disappointing is, there's 1,500 Norwich fans here today who've paid money, who've travelled because they want to support their team. And, they want to support those players who are willing to represent their club and put everything into the shirt to represent their club. And then to have a player decide that, he doesn't want to do that or doesn't feel he should do that, I think is extremely disappointing, irrespective of talent, irrespective of importance. It's, Gabby Sarah, you could list Max Aarons. I remember him playing at Preston the day that there was genuine interest from Barcelona. So, really disappointing that is the decision that Jonathan Rowe and his representatives have decided to take. Somebody who is here, a man called Thorson, Norwich City signed him from Red Bull Salzburg yesterday. Fee just below £4 million, plus add-ons, plus bonuses. There was a little bit of work, and I can imagine frantic work at Colney to get all the paperwork through to register him in time for this game. He's on the bench, and I think there is a lot of excitement about him and the quality that he can produce. He's somebody who played in the Champions League against Inter Milan and Real Sociedad last season. I think we're both sort of scratching our heads a little bit as to why he's here. That's the wrong way to word it, but someone who, with his profile and his pedigree, it feels like he should be a player that should still be at Red Bull Salzburg.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still like to know what's up. From October, he signs a new deal with Salzburg. He's played 29, I think, games in the Austrian Bundesliga that season. Champions League exposure. He makes his senior debut for Ghana over this summer, and we've got to the point where he's obviously not featuring. He hasn't played a lot of football this season with Salzburg, who got their season underway a week or two back. I don't know enough about. I haven't dug into it. Has there been changes of personnel, coaching wise over there? But why he's gone from this is the next big thing to they're willing to cash in at a reasonable price. It's decent money for Norwich, but it's not huge money in the wider context of the transfer window for a 21-year-old with his pedigree. So there's something not quite chiming with me, but that's by the by. What Norwich have is potentially, certainly for championship level, a very good player, and hopefully we get to see a little bit of him today. I mean, we can't put too much pressure on him as he's only just been in the door a matter of days, even less than Callum Doyle. But it just, again, you look at the business they've done this summer. It's another signal where Napa, where Torup want to go with this, but you bring in young players, particularly young players from outside of England. It's going to take time. It's going to take time to adapt, but it's another good signal. It's another good signal of what this transfer strategy is all about. But unfortunately, we're not talking about so much incomings. It's about outgoings, and I don't think it's going to be quiet between now and the end of the window. But that way,
is it not?
I mean, it's going to be quiet.
How do you see it where Norwich City's goalkeepers have just emerged and they're getting rich applause from those Norwich fans? Quite a few in here today, 1,500. I think that's what Johannes said, didn't he, on Thursday at his pre-match press conference. And I think there probably would have been a lot of optimism and enthusiasm on the trips up. Whether that has changed now, I hope that's not the case because there are plenty of Norwich players that are capable of winning this game, which probably lends us on nicely to speak about this game, Paddy, because I think it's got the potential. And you think about the occasion that it is for Oxford, and Des Buckingham has made no attempt to play it down in terms of what it means for this football club to be back at this level. It's been a long time since they were here. Obviously, it was Josh Murphy, wasn't it, who inspired their promotion at Wembley. This is going to be a tough afternoon for Norwich. How do you see it going this afternoon?
I thought they'd probably do enough to draw before the game, but you just think now with this, I'm not saying there's an excuse ready made now for those players, but it can't do anything other than destabilise. It's not good. It's not a good scenario. And will that just tip it maybe more towards Oxford, who, as I say, conversely, this is first time back at this level in 25 years. You know, this is a club seemingly on the up again, and a lot of enthusiasm and optimism for what lies ahead this season. He looks quite an impressive young coach. That lad is an Oxford lad as well, so he'll be highly motivated. It just points now, everything just points to, you know, maybe Norwich falling the wrong side of it, and unfortunately then that'll just keep even more pressure on focus on Johnny Rowe's decision. But I hope not. I hope they can galvanise themselves, you know, but it just feels it's probably tipping towards maybe 2-1 Norwich. You, a 2-1 Oxford.
2-1 Oxford.
I like it.
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think that's where my head has been out. I just think it's interesting to highlight this from Jonathan. It's the other side of the fence. I think he makes a valid point. I think there's a lot of unfairness around Rowe. If it's a physical injury, there would be no criticism. It appears that he's not mentally in the right place due to everything going on. So I'd argue he's done the responsible thing today to say he is not ready for today.
An interesting
but I would argue that there were whispers of this eventuality last night, and that would suggest it is a little bit more premeditated than that. But we'll see. We'll see what Johanna said. Obviously, only Jonathan Rowe can speak on Jonathan Rowe's behalf. But there we go. Let's see what we get here at Oxford United. Norwich City players are in white t-shirts. I think that's in tribute to Craig Shakespeare, from what I can see. It looks like he says "Rest in peace, Shaky," but I may be wrong on that. And very sad news. We obviously had a moment to tribute to him at Carrow Road last week. Pinkin.com, the place to go. You'll be speaking to Johannes after. I don't know what you're going to ask him post game. We'll have all the updates, all the analysis, all the reaction to this Championship opening day between Oxford United and Norwich City at Pinkin.com. Not going to be quiet. Thanks for watching. See you soon.